Hi, I'm Dana, and it's time for this week's question. And it actually came from a past client of mine who was calling to see if it was time to stop her 3-year-old from taking his afternoon nap. And what tends to happen with afternoon naps is usually the child will readily take a nap and seem tired around his usual nap time and sleep his usual 2-hour nap. But then the problem arises when bedtime rolls around. And when it's bedtime, let's say bedtime was normally 7 or 7:30, the child goes to bed, and, I can remember when my children were weaning off their nap, they'd be in their bed singing and talking and, for hours until they finally fell asleep. And in her case, her son just kept coming out of his room and asking for various requests and just, all around making mischief around bedtime. Whereas before, he happily went to bed and there were no issues. So that's a pretty good indicator that it was time to end the afternoon nap. And the next problem is, her concern is if he's going to go all day without a nap, is he going to be having dinner time meltdowns, and is his behavior going to, change because of it? And when you're transitioning a child out of a nap, it takes the body at least 4 to 6 weeks to adjust to any kind of big change in your sleeping habits. So you have to expect that for at least a month it's going to be a bit of a rocky road, and there will be, some meltdowns here or there, and he'll still seem tired around his normal nap time, and you just have to really push through that. And a great way to ease the transition is something I call quiet time. And that's, after lunch at the normal nap time, the child goes to his bedroom and plays independently for about half an hour to 45 minutes. He doesn't have to take a nap. You don't call it nap. You just say it's quiet time. You can set up a few stations if you want and say, here are your cars. You can play with your cars. You can do some coloring. You can read some books. You can play with blocks. These are the things that you can do on your own in your room. You don't stay, you don't engage with him. This is break time basically for him and for you. And it's really helpful to set a timer. So, bring in an egg timer or something and set it for half an hour to 45 minutes and say, when the bell goes, you may come out and quiet time is over. Now, her next concern was, oh gosh, he'll never stay in his room. He can't be by himself for more than a minute, and he constantly wants interaction. It's going to be really difficult to make him stay. And I said, well, the best way to encourage it is to, if he comes out before the bell rings, you just give him a warning. You may not come out until your bell rings. If you come out again, I'm going to close your door, and then you have to close the door tightly for a couple of minutes each time he comes out. And you just keep putting him back and putting him back and putting him back and making sure that there's a consequence for the behavior, and he'll stay. He will. And eventually, when I talked to her a couple weeks later, what she was thrilled with was that he was taking quiet time on his own, and he was enjoying it and looking forward to some independent play. But it had transferred to other areas, meaning she could go get the baby a bottle or put the baby to bed or do the bath with the baby and just say to him, Mommy's going to do these things. Why don't you go read some books or play with your blocks or do something on your own? And he was able to do that. She really felt like she'd given him the tools he needed to play independently, not rely so heavily on her presence or her interaction, and it had really made him more confident in his ability to amuse himself. And I think that's, a great gift to give a child is, how do I do things on my own? How do I play on my own? So that they don't always think that they need constant interaction and constant entertainment. And doesn't just come like magic to a child. They really need to learn how to do this and how to entertain themselves. So I would encourage you, when you are transitioning your child out of the afternoon nap, that you do, enforce some quiet time. And at first it'll feel like, you've got to be tough about it, and it's got to be a rule, and you have to, reinforce the rules. But eventually it'll become a time that your child will look forward to and you'll look forward to. And, eventually they'll probably transition out of their quiet time as well, but it's a good way to sort of bridge the distance and get rid of that afternoon meltdown, because it's just a break. It gives you both a break from each other. And so that's something I wanted to share with you, and stay tuned for next week's question. Thanks, and sleep well.